Well, hello back, my YouTube friend. So I guess that the part one was good enough for me to post it. So let's go now to the part two. So I was saying that the tolerance that you have here with the Rexford is almost impossible to get. The tolerance between the pivot also. I brought a couple of knives just to show you what I think. So you have here Mayo. You know what? Let's start with something that nobody will discuss with me because you know how much I love Bob Terzuola. So look at that. Around the pivot, you have here a small gap and here a big gap, and you have some room between the screw and the scale. The same here. You see, it's not perfect. You see, now check that. You see here. You see the tolerance, how, big it is compared to the Rexford. You see the gap, of course, between the blade between the blade and the scales. The same can be said about Mayo. Here it's good, but you have some gap. Here it's good, but you have some gap. Here, the washers on this one, I disassembled it. The washers are the thinnest washer. You can tell that, when you put some bearings, maybe it will put you some distance between the scale and the blade. But this one has such a small washer. But look at the tolerance here. It's good, but nothing compared to this. Nothing. This is touching almost the scales. And that is just crazy when you look at that. When you look at it from here, it's kind of difficult to say because he went for a very nice wedge. So you might think that there is some space, but if you look at it from the flat part, it's really almost touching the scale. Look at that here. I'm going to try to show you. The tolerance here is ridiculous. Ridiculous. So this is something that not a lot of people does. You know what? Because I spoke about the Mayo, and you know that I made a video. I was kind of not really positive, probably. I don't know about Mayo, but you see that I invested some money on this one, and I adore it. But you have some. Listen, you have something. I was saying that this one has bumps and crazy, design on this. This is crazy. When you look at that, those bumps here are crazy, but they fit perfectly the hand here. This Mayo became one of my great EDC, even one of the best that I have. But the design, look at that. The choil is here. Look at the distance that you have between the choil here and the handle. And as good as it is, to me, it's not as Rexford good. But I brought another knife for you to understand. I brought a Terzuola. Now let me bring you one of my also not only best maker, but I love the man also, as I do with Bob. And so the tolerance on this one also, man, let me try to focus on this one. You see the tolerance is great, but you see the gaps that you have. It's one of the best tolerance, but it's still not Rexford-like. You see the gap, and you see that there is some space. This is not, even though it's one of the greatest that I have in my collection, this is not that tolerance here that touches almost the scale. So that's just, to me, one of the great point about Rexford. It's 4 minutes now that I'm discussing about that, and I don't want to go to a part 3 because that would be quite unusual. So we'll keep it on with Rexford. So yeah, he does things that evidently nobody else does. Man, again, I will use this saying that I've heard here and there from good friends of mine when they say that less is more. They told me less is more about Mayo, actually. And I totally agree. You don't need to put a lot of craziness. A simple knife like that is enough. A simple blade shape, simple handle, everything, that's enough to get a great knife. And again, I will insist, and this will have his own video, I just adore some mayo now, but I can definitely understand why less is more with those kind of knives. I understand it even better, and I did actually, before getting that mayo, I did it with this one, because I told you already that this was truly one simple guy. A simple guy, simple slabs of titanium as it seems, but there's so much to it. The grind may look simple, but there's so much to it. That's a perfect knife for an EDC. And that's what it is. I mean, if you consider that Todd does those knives and might sell this one for $800, $900, that's a cheap knife for him. But, man, the attention that he puts, the same can be said here about the pivot. Look at that. It is flush, and you cannot tell that there are even two different materials, even though the bead blast here is kind of grippy, and this is kind of shiny. Only when you get to the middle of this pivot you can tell that maybe there's a difference. Look at how flush it is. So yeah, that's a perfect knife for EDC. Look at this belly, the Epicenter. Listen, I have now the ultimate grail. I do adore everything about this knife. The blade shape, everything, I do adore it. But to me, I've heard here and there, people are... you have all kinds of collectors. You have collectors that will collect for the love of... I mean, I'm not going to describe everything, but you have some collectors that are definitely checking knives for what they can, for their trend and the possibility to resell them. I'm not going to say that I despise that, but if it's mainly that, maybe my feeling about that is the closest thing to despise. I said that I shouldn't be opinionated, but I'm going to be on this one. To me, collecting knives, yeah, okay. You can have some investors, dealers, I mean, it's their business. I can understand that. But for collectors, yeah, I don't like it. So some people told me that, the Epicenter, it's almost worthless because it's an old model and there is no value to resell. First of all, it's wrong. That's absolutely not true. You have a lot of people that will adore the Epicenter. Then again, I don't give a shit, man. I couldn't care less. This knife to me is my favorite, my best, in my opinion, my favorite model of his. I mean, this grind is just one of the best grind I've ever seen. And even now that I got the ultimate grail, and I can tell you, I prefer of the two, if I had to choose to keep one, I would keep this one. But the design, to me, of the Epicenter, especially on the blade, actually, I like it better. I like better the blade shape on this one. That's a perfect utility knife. This one is a little bit crazier, but yet it's a perfect... Look at this belly here. Oh, man, it's just brilliant. Maybe in time I will change and I will prefer this one, but I'm not sure. I really do adore that, So again, that's my opinion, but it brought me to a point that I had to say something about those guys that invest, or because that's what it is. I mean, some guys will buy Rexford just for flipping them or whatever. This is, to me. I can understand that, because a knife like that should be owned by people who would only love and understand and feel the passion that this guy has because that's a passion. When you're gonna put that kind of, because I don't know how long it takes him to do that, but I can tell you that it cannot be fast. It cannot. All the details that you have here, that cannot be fast. So if he sells them for the ridiculous small price that he does, it has to go with his passion of making knives. And the guy is, to me, incredible. So, yeah, when I bought them, I had in my mind the fact that if I needed to resell them, that would be an easy fix, But I wanted to try them, not to flip them, because I couldn't. I have too much invested in this one, actually. But I wanted to try them with the idea that if it was not that good, I could resell them. But first of all, that was the passion to discover a knife maker and his art, the passion that drove me to get those knives. And now this passion will lead me and will bring me to get, if anything, maybe more. Maybe I'm happy with that. I'll tell you that much. I'm happy with that. If my collection stays like it is, I'm happy. I'm not craving to get way more than that, because I have my Ultimate EDC, I have my dressed version of the Epicenter, and I have my Ultimate Grail here, which suffice for me. So let's do a little, close-up on the knife. Look at this Mokutai clip here on standoff. This is my favorite way of doing clip. I don't like bended clips, even if they're utilitarian for sure, but I don't like them. 3D might be a little bit too, gives you some hot spots. This kind of clip on standoff is just what I love. And this Mokutai one is, look at those color popping here there. Oh, it's silly. The mechanism, I didn't discuss about the engagement. Usually his engagement here is kind of early. On this one is a bit late, because probably my friend who got it before must have played a lot, and the action is so snappy, boom, that so in time it of course it travels a little bit, but as it is now, it's 50%. Let me try to focus on this one. Yeah, it's still rock solid, and there is no, look at that, absolutely no stickness. Now, as for the centering, the color, the blue color here of the backspacer is even better on this side, actually, than on this one. Sorry. Here it lost a little bit of this color, so I need to revive that with some product. I don't know what I'm going to use. But inside, look at that. With the light here, it brings such a nice color here. Look how smooth. I don't know if I told that in the first part. I'm missing that, but I hate when blade falls by its own weight. And check that detent. Oh man, this is absolutely silliness. So I'm not sure that I'm going to have anything more to say about that. The trend, ladies and gentlemen, is real, but it is for a good reason. You have here, to me, one of the best, even though I have to make a kind of disclaimer. I mean, I don't like the gap that you have here between the blade and the handle. I don't really like on this, probably this one is the oldest of the three. I don't like here the protruding part here. I told you about that. Here it did a little bit better, but still there is a little bit protruding here. Sometimes, like on this one, as I said, it's a little bit off center, and the detent is, you see, not as strong, but I put a nice motion on this one. But actually, I like the ratio on this one, because this one, you cannot deploy it as smooth as you want. This one is made for, boom, flicking like that. And it's such a great action. But if I want to just deploy it smoothly, I would have to open it a little bit like that, and then do that to appreciate the smoothness of the blade. On this one, actually, from the start, you can deploy it. Boom, look at that. Look how smooth it is. And this is something that I adore. The ratio on this one is good, because the detent, this one opened by accident for sure, and yet it gives you this smoothness. So even that, to me, since I have both knives, gives me some versatility on the action. So yeah, I am absolutely pleased. I have my flipper, I have my dress, I have the frame lock, I have the liner lock. I am a happy man, and I am even more happy because I discovered, to me now, my favorite maker. I don't know the man, and you know that I love, there is something also that I love about knives, and it's to, the people who make those knives. This one, Bob, is, family for me. Eric, oh man, I love this guy. And they're just so excellent makers. Todd Rexford, I don't know the guy. I discussed with him on at G7, but I don't know the guy. But I obviously now have the guy who is a true genius. I will leave it at that. You see, to me, obviously, for me, I don't know what I say, obviously. So from my standpoint here, this here, right here, is to me the best maker in the world. Simple as that, period. He does things that no other does. And for that, I needed to take some time, some experience to try those knives, to have them in hands, to carry them, to understand how perfect they are and why this guy is at his place now, which is absolutely well deserved. And I don't even have the ultimate pieces, the great pieces that he does for auction that I tried at G7, for example, and those are even at a higher level of skill. So with that being said, my friend, we're catching to the 15 minutes. I'll catch you very soon for another video. Bye-bye, it was a pleasure!